On a humid evening in a small riverside village in southern Nigeria, 14-year-old Charity Okoye walked home from the community well with a clay pot balanced carefully on her head. The orange sun stretched the shadows of palm trees across the dusty road. Charity was a slim girl with deep brown skin, bright curious eyes, and long braided hair tied with red beads that clicked softly when she walked. She wore a faded yellow Ankara dress and old blue rubber sandals. As she passed the giant Udala tree at the center of the village square, something strange happened. Her shadow stopped moving. Charity took 3 more steps before noticing. She turned slowly. Her shadow stood still behind her. And then, it moved without her. A cold wind seemed to pass through the square. The shadow stretched, lifted its arm, and pointed toward the dark forest road. Charity's heart began to race. Because shadows were never supposed to move first. 2 boys playing football nearby suddenly stopped kicking their worn-out ball. "Charity, why is your shadow walking?" one of them whispered. Charity froze. Slowly, the shadow stepped forward again, but her body did not move. The boys screamed and ran toward their houses. Now the entire square felt silent. Even the goats grazing near the cassava stalls stopped chewing. Charity looked down again. Her shadow slowly turned its head upward, as if looking back at her. Then it took another step toward the forest path. Charity felt something deep inside her chest, a strange pull she could not explain. Charity ran home, nearly dropping the water pot. Her grandmother, Mama Ngozi, sat outside their mud house weaving a basket. The old woman had silver hair wrapped in a blue headscarf and wise eyes that had seen many strange things. "Grandma," Charity gasped. "My shadow, it walked away." Mama Ngozi's hands stopped weaving. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she looked at the ground behind Charity. The shadow had returned. But it moved slowly. Like it was breathing. Mama Ngozi's face hardened. "There are stories older than this village," she said quietly. "Stories about children whose shadows choose a different path." Charity swallowed nervously. "What does it mean?" Mama Ngozi looked toward the distant forest. "It means," she whispered, "something in that forest has finally found you." That night, the oil lamp flickered inside their small home. Mama Ngozi told Charity an old story. Long ago, some children were born with a spirit shadow. Their shadows were not just darkness on the ground. They were guides, protectors, or sometimes warnings. When a spirit shadow walks away, Mama Ngozi said softly, it is searching for something its owner has not yet discovered. Charity felt chills crawl across her skin. "What if I don't follow it?" Mama Ngozi's eyes grew serious. "Then it may stop protecting you." Outside, the moonlight crept across the ground. And for a brief moment, Charity's shadow stood up again. At midnight, Charity woke suddenly. The room was silent. Except for something moving outside. She stepped outside carefully. The moon hung bright over the village. And there, on the dusty ground, her shadow was walking again. This time it did not wait. It moved steadily toward the forest path beyond the farms. Charity's heart pounded. Every story she had heard about the forest flooded her mind. Spirits. Ancient magic. Lost souls. But the shadow stopped at the road and turned back toward her. Waiting. Inviting. Or commanding. Charity took a deep breath. And stepped forward. The deeper Charity walked, the quieter the world became. Crickets stopped singing. The wind disappeared. Her shadow moved confidently ahead, gliding over rocks and roots. At one point it climbed over a fallen tree, something impossible for an ordinary shadow. Charity's fear slowly turned into curiosity. "Where are you taking me?" she whispered. The shadow paused. Then pointed toward a faint glowing light deeper inside the forest. Something was waiting. Something that had been waiting a very long time. After nearly an hour, Charity reached a forgotten shrine hidden deep within the forest. Stone statues covered in moss stood around the circular clearing. In the center burned a small blue flame. Her shadow walked directly toward the flame. Then something impossible happened. The shadow slowly lifted itself off the ground. Standing like a real person. Charity stepped back in shock. For the first time in her life, she was standing face to face with her own shadow. The shadow tilted its head. Then it spoke in a whisper that sounded like wind moving through leaves. "Charity." The girl stumbled backward. "You can talk." "Yes." The shadow looked toward the burning blue flame. "You have something the world needs." Charity's voice trembled. "What?" The shadow slowly turned back toward her. "A destiny your family tried to hide." The shadow began telling the truth. Charity had not been born ordinary. The night she was born, the moon disappeared for 7 minutes. Animals howled. And the village oracle warned that the child carried a split spirit. One part light. One part shadow. Her parents had hidden the truth to protect her. But the balance was breaking. And if the shadow separated completely, Charity might disappear forever. The shadow extended its hand. "You must decide soon." "What decision?" Charity asked. "Whether you remain human or become something greater." Charity stared at the shadow's hand. If she accepted, her life would never be normal again. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the shrine, something else was watching. Waiting. Smiling. Charity stared at the shadow's outstretched hand, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The strange blue flame flickered wildly as if it could sense the tension growing in the shrine. Her shadow's voice was calm, but there was something urgent beneath it. "If you refuse me," the shadow whispered, "the balance between us will break forever." Charity slowly lifted her hand but hesitated inches away from the dark silhouette. She remembered the quiet life she had known. Fetching water, helping her grandmother cook, laughing with village children in the dusty square. But deep inside, she also felt something awakening, a strange power she had never understood. "What happens if I take your hand?" she asked. The shadow's form rippled like smoke. "You will see the truth that others cannot." A sudden wind rushed through the shrine, making the tall trees creak like ancient guardians watching the moment unfold. Charity swallowed nervously and slowly reached forward. The moment Charity's fingers touched the shadow's hand, the world exploded into darkness. She was no longer standing in the shrine. Instead, she floated above the village like a silent spirit. Below her, she could see people moving through their daily lives, farmers in their fields, women selling tomatoes at the roadside, children chasing tires through dusty paths. But something was wrong. Dark shapes slithered across the ground like living smoke. They moved through people's shadows, whispering, watching, waiting. Charity gasped. "These shadows, they are alive." Her shadow's voice echoed beside her. "They have always been." Charity realized something terrifying. The shadows of the world had secrets humans were never meant to see. The vision suddenly shifted. Charity now saw deeper inside the forest. Hidden far beyond the shrine was a towering figure made entirely of shadow, tall as a palm tree and shaped like a human but constantly shifting like black smoke. Its glowing white eyes stared toward the village. Watching. Waiting. "What is that?" Charity whispered in fear. Her shadow answered quietly. "The one who feeds on wandering shadows." Charity's chest tightened. "You mean it's once mine?" The shadow nodded slowly. "Yes. And now it knows you have awakened." The vision vanished and Charity collapsed back onto the shrine floor, breathing heavily. The blue flame burned brighter now. Her shadow stood beside her again. That creature grows stronger every year, the shadow explained. It feeds on the shadows of people who lose their courage, their hope, their dreams. Charity slowly stood up. Why show me this? The shadow looked directly into her eyes. Because you are the only one whose shadow can fight it. Charity's hands trembled. Me? I'm just a village girl. The shadow shook its head. You are something much more. Charity slowly raised her hand toward the blue flame. Something strange happened. Her shadow mirrored the movement, but the flame suddenly lifted into the air between them. The fire floated like a living star. Charity gasped. I'm doing that. Yes, the shadow replied. The power has begun. For the first time, Charity felt it. A quiet strength spreading through her body like warm sunlight after rain. But with it came a frightening thought. If she truly had this power, the creature in the forest would eventually come for her. The shadow slowly stepped closer to Charity. For years I protected you without your knowledge, it said softly. But soon, I will not be able to protect you alone. Charity felt fear creeping into her heart again. What do we do? The shadow pointed toward the distant village lights. You must learn to control what you are. And the creature? Charity asked. The shadow's voice became quiet. It will come. The wind suddenly howled through the forest like a warning. Charity realized something chilling. The night had only just begun. Charity began walking back toward the village as the moon slowly sank behind the trees. But something had changed. Her shadow no longer followed behind her. It walked beside her now. Like a companion. Or a guardian. As they reached the edge of the forest, Charity glanced down at the ground. For a brief second, her shadow turned its head toward the darkness behind them. And smiled. Because deep within the forest, the giant shadow creature had started moving. And it was coming closer. Charity felt the cold chill of destiny crawling up her spine. Her shadow had walked away first. Now the real story was just beginning. If your shadow suddenly started walking on its own, would you follow it into the forest?